Here's the what we got to stop looking for things that make you angry, and just try to let things go and just be nice to each other. So, are you from Babylon? Are you from Mesopotamia? No, then shut the because you're culturally appropriating. The problem is when people start infringing on other people's freedoms. That's what drives me crazy. That's what's driving me crazy about this gay marriage thing, and that's what's driving me crazy about this abortion thing. It's like, who are you to tell people what they can and can't do?
Joe Rogan has never taken it lightly with woke culture. With a relentless pursuit of questioning societal norms, Rogan's podcast has become a battleground for debates on political correctness, identity, and free speech.
Someone
because
who
I
said the greatest of all time
is a man who calls Judaism
termites.
Who calls Jews termites, who calls Judaism a gutter religion, who says that we should burn in ovens, and who, by the way, is a misogynist homophobe. Also, the leaders of the Women's March are associating with this guy and had the Nation of Islam security protecting them.
One of the most notable moments featured Mike Barker discussing how high school kids are rejecting the woke narrative. Rogan pointed out that younger generations are growing disillusioned with woke ideologies, often denying them outright.
Well, apparently how many anti-Semitic bigots were just like in the shadows waiting for an opportunity to jump out.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
The open anti-Semitism online is so shocking. And people chanting in the streets, death to the Jews, like what?
Yeah, from a variety of quarters. Yeah, in 2023, yeah. And you know, I guess it's naive to think that maybe we didn't have that problem anymore, but...
Mike shared anecdotes about his child, describing how they encountered the absurdities of woke culture in schools. Rogan doubled down, emphasizing how students gravitate toward hard work and accountability, values that contrast with the victim mentality perpetuated by woke ideologies.
Jewish people have always been saying it, and a lot of people have been saying, oh, you guys are exaggerating.
Yeah.
And now I guess everybody has to shut the up about that. It's like, it's not, not only were they not exaggerating, they were kind of underplaying it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, they were definitely underplaying it, but I think that if you look at, again, if you look at what's happening here in America, right, there's layers to it.
Rogan's critique extends to the broader implications of identity politics, especially in schools. He discusses the absurdity of catering to extreme behaviors, like students identifying as animals. He argues that enabling such behavior is counterproductive and equates it to affirming a mental health issue instead of addressing it. And hey, real quick, if you're enjoying this content and want more insights like this, hit subscribe and help us reach these conversations to a wider audience. Thank you for the support. Now, let's jump back into the video.
Fairly rabid, right? Meaning what she's saying about it is not particularly eloquent, right? And so she gets censored because, you know, she's just like out there spouting almost what appears to be pro-Hamas or making some sort of equivalency, right? Saying,
well, she tweeted the incorrect story.
Yes.
About the bombing of the hospital being the responsibility of Israel, and it wasn't.
That's actually that's a great point, because the attacks took place 7 October.
He and Barker agreed on one critical point. The logical inconsistency of woke culture is impossible to ignore. Rogan highlighted how these ideologies create confusion rather than fostering genuine understanding or inclusivity.
You're associating him with that, clearly.
I don't think so. I do not see this as propaganda.
Look at the way it's phrased on your article. This sort of race science is outdated and long since debunked, especially given the strong links between Atlantis and Aryans proposed by several Nazi archaeologists. That's like a part of the headline.
In a particularly heated exchange, Rogan confronted Flint Dibble about cancel culture's hypocrisy. Flint had attempted to discredit Graham Hancock, accusing him of promoting racially charged narratives.
No, listen, stop. Don't do that. They're not connected to him. They're just humans. There's a lot of crazy people in the world. This is you. We're talking about you.
Yes, but what I'm trying to say is that people misinterpret Graham. There's lots of people on the internet that think that he's talking about a lost white civilization.
Right, but this is something that you chose to highlight at the top of the page.
No, I did not highlight that at the top of the page.
Why is that like that?
He did that. That's actually near the end of it.
That's a quote from the article.
That's near the end of it.
But why is it up there like that?
I put it there.
You did it. Oh,
yeah,
Jesus.
I did not put that there
I'm
like
just
that.
taking I'm just taking an extract from Flint's article.
Okay.
Rogan argued that this incident exemplifies a larger issue with woke culture, its tendency to suppress dissenting voices through public shaming and unfounded accusations. He stressed that intellectual disagreements should foster dialogue, not cancellation.
You know what else is weird is that, like, the same mentality that says this says that a white kid who grows dreadlocks and dresses in urban streetwear is
Right.
culturally appropriating.
Yes, many of the people that would think that, yeah, including there was a movement that they had a ban. I think most people abandoned it, but it was really ridiculous for a while, where they were yelling at white girls wearing hoop earrings because they were saying that this is a Latina thing and you're culturally appropriating.
I remember that.
But it's not.
Greg Fitzsimmons joined Rogan to discuss the compliance-driven nature of woke culture. Rogan criticized the concept of cultural appropriation, arguing that it stifles creativity and human connection.
There's a lot of dirty white people with dreadlocks. They're not trying to culturally appropriate. They're trying to be dirty hippies with dreadlocks.
Yeah.
They exist. They're real. To say that that's cultural appropriation is crazy. It's we all appropriate. We all do.
Rogan viewed these trends as a symptom of a larger problem, the obsession with controlling others. He contended that woke culture thrives on imposing rules, demanding obedience, and vilifying anyone who strays from the prescribed narrative.
Yes.
So you're trying to take it on.
It's all woke. It's all woke culture. It's this culture of compliance. They want you to comply. That's what it's about more than anything. It's getting people to change, getting people to listen to you and do what you want them to do. I want you to stop wearing those earrings. I want you to stop wearing dreadlocks. Meanwhile, dreadlocks, the Romans wore dreadlocks.
Looking deep into the psychology of woke activists, Rogan observed that many are motivated by past experiences of being marginalized or bullied. However, he noted that their response often involves adopting the same oppressive tactics they once resented.
Look, on Halloween, Jesus Christ, I read this list of things you shouldn't do on Halloween. It was like, don't put a feather in your head, don't even tattoo, don't put a tattoo.
For Rogan, true progress lies in fostering empathy and understanding, not in silencing dissenting opinions. He expressed frustration at how woke culture often prioritizes feelings over constructive dialogue, leading to a culture of outrage and performative activism.
And I was talking to a guy who was telling me that you don't know the half of it, that we're dealing with a guy who he identifies as an animal, and that he believes that he's kin, like he's a fox kin or a dog kin or something like that. And he wants a litter box in his office. This guy wants to be able to shat in his office into a box of...
Now, I appreciate that. Now, I want to say this about him, and I'm not a psychiatrist, and I have no right to really diagnose, but he's crazy.
Yeah, he is crazy.
Right?
Rogan explored the tension between feminism and woke culture, particularly concerning transgender athletes. He and his guest, Dan Crenshaw, discussed how feminist groups are increasingly opposing policies that allow transgender women to compete in women's sports.
Look, when you're letting a 6'4" man compete in women's weightlifting because he's decided that he's a woman now, and now he's winning and he's wearing makeup and he looks like a gorilla and he's on stage lifting his arms up. Yay, diversity!
Yeah.
Like you're stealing from women.
You're stealing.
You're stealing victory.
You're cheating.
You're cheating.
For Rogan, the push to erase distinctions between men and women represents an overreach of woke ideology. He sympathized with feminists who feel that their hard-fought rights are being eroded by policies that prioritize inclusion over fairness.
Part of the problem is these people want to be special for no reason at all.
Correct.
And so to be special for no reason at all, one of the best ways is to do what Bruce Jenner did. You become Caitlyn Jenner, and then he's special. That guy was a loser, even though he was a gigantic superstar in the Olympics.
40 years ago.
But from then on, they shat on that guy every show.
That's right.
They shit on him. He was the buffoon of that show.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he becomes a woman and everybody's like, you're amazing.
Yeah. And
Rogan often highlights how the left has alienated moderate liberals by embracing extreme positions. He pointed out that movements once rooted in equality and freedom have become vehicles for authoritarianism.
And Woman of the Year. Woman of the
Yeah,
Year.
After being a woman for 6 months.
Yeah, all the women that do things like Christina Doudna who came up with CRISPR-Cas9 and all those women.
Oh, is this the guy? Okay, this is hilarious. This is a dude who's a comic? Is he?
Crenshaw echoed Rogan's concerns, noting how the left's focus on identity politics has overshadowed broader issues like economic inequality and environmental protection. Rogan agreed, emphasizing that the obsession with divisive narratives detracts from meaningful progress.
What race is that lady's going to run, and don't run those races?
Yeah, run a different race. That's always been my
How do you
advice.
feel about trans athletes?
You know, it's a good question. I think we're really going to go through like a cultural change on how we think about that. You know, it's morphing so quickly. You know what I mean? I'm very much, because I am of this opinion that there is no such thing as like perfect fairness, and when we make those distinctions, we're always choosing who to allow.
Rogan has been outspoken about his opposition to administering hormone treatments to children. In a conversation with Adam Conover, Rogan challenged the ethics of altering a child's body to align with their perceived identity.
There's a reason, there's a distinction. There's a reason why we make the distinction to have male athletics versus female athletics. The reason is that males have a physiological advantage over women. So in most sports, most physical sports, we do not have males compete with females. The question becomes, when someone who is male transitions and becomes female, do those same physiological advantages apply? And what is the evidence? Well,
Rogan questioned the long-term consequences of these treatments, citing studies suggesting that gender dysphoria often resolves itself without medical intervention.
so if you're a woman and you're a natural woman and you don't take any extra hormones or male hormones, you're not taking steroids or any sort of performance-enhancing drugs, you're doing your very best to compete and you're at the top of the heap. But then someone comes along that was a man for 30 years and decides that they're going to be a woman, and this has happened, and literally transitioned a few months ago and competes as a woman and destroys records and dominates you in that sport. That's bullshit.
Rogan expressed skepticism about how science is often weaponized to justify woke policies. He argued that cherry-picking data to support ideological agendas undermines public trust in science.
The male for 30 plus years of having testosterone run through their body and affect their tendon strength and affect the shape of their bones and the mechanical advantages of the male hips versus the female hips. And then they're competing with smaller people who have been a woman their whole life. It's not fair.
In his view, the misuse of science reflects a broader cultural shift toward tribalism and moral absolutism. Rogan argued that these tendencies stifle innovation and critical thinking, ultimately doing more harm than good.
As taking steroids when the other person doesn't, or taking performance-enhancing drugs when the other person doesn't, maybe even more so. Maybe even more so because you also have there's a bunch of advantages.
Throughout his podcast, Rogan has noted how the excesses of woke culture are driving people away from progressive movements. He argued that the left's insistence on ideological purity alienates potential allies and fuels polarization.
Well, I disagree, and I've.
What do you disagree about?
I've already. Well, my main point being the one that I already made, right? That like, I don't think that there is such a thing as a perfectly level playing field. I think we decide what kind of playing field we want to have.
Sure, but we do make the distinction where we don't allow men to compete in women's divisions.
And I think
Rogan believes that the backlash against woke culture is a natural response to its overreach. He emphasized that true progress requires balancing empathy with pragmatism rather than forcing compliance through fear and shame. So, what do you think? Is woke culture stifling progress or necessary for change? Are we focusing too much on feelings over facts? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more bold discussions on culture and free speech. Thanks for watching.